Hello everyone and welcome back to the new, relaunched and improved Schnack, which is basically means chinwag. A Schnack is chinwag in northern German slang.
Lovely.
Yes, and we have a guest for this relaunch. My good friend Ajit is here.
Hello, a guest who apparently can't wait for his cue to talk. But yes, hello. Hello all.
Yes,
Nice to
hello.
be on this channel.
Yes, I know Ajit from our mutual love of cricket, and I've been a guest
Yes.
on his podcast many a time, and so he graciously agreed to help me out with the relaunch of Schnack here, and thank you very
Uh,
much for that.
Always a pleasure. If it's something nerdy, why not? So
Yes, the
always
idea.
happy to be, first of all, chatting with you, be it
Yeah,
about nerdy stuff or cricket, but then nerd stuff, why not? This is going to be a new experiment for me. Let's see how that goes.
yeah, okay. Excellent. And as the first episode of this new and improved Nerdschnack channel, we will delve into one of my favorite books of all time. It is very influential in my life because I read it at a relatively young age. It was written when I was 2 years old in 1984, and it is one of the foundational texts of something that is generally known as cyberpunk. We are, of course, talking about William Gibson's Neuromancer today. Um,
hmm
let's maybe give a bit of background on William Gibson first. Just a very brief background. He was born in 1948, so he is basically around 3 months older than my father, and he was born in South Carolina, in Conway, South Carolina. His father was a construction worker, and the family moved quite a bit during Gibson's childhood. When he was in elementary school in Norfolk, in Virginia, his father choked to death on a business trip. His mother then,
Ouch.
his mother then moved Gibson back to a very small village, basically called Whiteville in Virginia, and that is one of the most important things in his early childhood because he feels exiled since then, and he develops an interest in science fiction. He's a bit of a nerdy guy. He also finds the beat poets like William S. Burroughs and Allen Ginsberg, Jack Kerouac, stuff like that. When he is 18, he then gets shipped off to a boarding school in Tucson, Arizona, which he actually liked because he really hated living in Whiteville, apparently. And
Mm.
this Tucson is a bigger city um, than Whiteville in Virginia, and he also credits the move, of which he approved at the time, with forcing him to develop a social circle, to interact with people more. So he doesn't really see this as a negative, as a net negative. When he is 18 years old, his mother also dies, and he leaves school without graduating at the time. He will in later life tell that he moved to Toronto after that to evade the draft, because this is in the late 60s, and America is in the throes of the Vietnam War. He moves to Toronto, even though even later than when he claimed that he moved to Canada to evade the draft, he then clarified after that that but nobody bothered to draft him anyway, so it's more of a preemptive draft dodging, if you want to call it that. Um,
Mm.
yeah, he he gets up to some shenanigans apparently, because he gets into smoking weed and having apparently, or part of his motivation is apparently that he wants to have sex with hippie chicks, as he called it. Um,
Yeah, 60s movement, flower power. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
exactly, something like that. He becomes the manager of a head shop. So
Mm.
yeah, very much in the drug culture and stuff like that, which will be important later on, because there's so many interesting and very funny um, quotes he later gives about Neuromancer and his writings. He then finds a girlfriend and he travels with her to Europe and stuff like that. And he said that they had a preference for fascistic countries in Europe. He goes to the Greek to a Greek archipelago, which is at the time still under a junta. The Greeks had their own right wing fascist
Mm.
government. Um, he visits Istanbul in 1970, and the reason for all of this is not that William Gibson really likes fascists. It's because he doesn't have
Mm.
that much money, and fascist regimes at the time are very isolated. So the exchange rates are very favorable for
Uh-huh.
someone who does not have um, that much money. He then goes back to Washington D.C. for a bit. Finally graduates high school, and then he goes after this Washington D.C. and European adventures, because he describes his time in Washington D.C. as brief, riot torn. Um,
Mm.
he then goes back with his girlfriend to Canada. This time he goes to British Columbia. He resides in Vancouver with his wife because he married her. He basically becomes a bit of a scalper, if you will. He buys stuff from the Goodwill at the Salvation Army, that he knows that is underpriced, and he basically resells it to specialist dealers, making a bit of a profit in the
Mm.
process. Um, the couple have a child, and he is happy to be at home and take care of the child because they live off his wife's teacher's salary. He then comes to the realization that it is much easier to get good grades and therefore qualify for student what's it called in English, student grants and stuff like that,
Mm.
than to
How
have a
old was he to have applied for a student grant?
in 72, so he is around 24. He graduated high school
All right.
at the age of 21. He then enrolls.
Still, there's a chance. Yes.
Yeah,
It's
he's
not
in.
too old.
No. He's in his mid 20s at the time, and he enrolls uh, in the University of British Columbia, and he studies English literature. He graduates. He obtains his Bachelor of Arts, and after his bachelor, he briefly considers a master's thesis, and his master's thesis was going to be hard science fiction novels as fascist literature. This is very important that he considered this thesis for his master, because at the time there is really a problem in science fiction, and cyberpunk, a literary movement that he will help bring into the world,
Mhm.
is really a reaction and a countercultural movement and moment to the American science fiction of the late 1970s, early 1980s, which is indeed dominated by people that can be described as fascists. People like Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle and Paul Anderson. They are deeply problematic people, and they write deeply problematic literature and sell it to young kids who really just like starships and stuff like that. Yeah. He has an odd job here and there. He's a teacher for a time. He's a teaching assistant at his alma mater, the University of British Columbia, in a film course that is there. And in 1980 or 81, he comes into contact with punk musician and fellow science fiction writer John Shirley, who is a few years younger than William Gibson, and he will be a frequent collaborator and a friend for the rest of his life. He's not dead yet. He's not dead. Don't... Yeah, okay, everyone, calm down.
Who's not dead yet?
Both of them aren't dead yet. So
not yet. They're still around. Okay.
They're still around. Gibson is around. Shirley is around, and Shirley is actually on social media. He has a Blue Sky account, and I got into contact with him on Blue Sky because I stumbled across his account. I think because I was following either John Scalzi or Charlie Stross, one of those, and he showed up in the replies, and I really liked John Shirley's collection of short stories. I'm from a relatively small town. We have 50,000 people, something around that. So our library...
That's not a small town.
Yeah.
I can take you to villages in this part of the world with 500 people. Yeah, I get your point.
Yeah, sure.
I'm teasing you.
Yeah, I know, but I'm merely, or I'm mainly telling everyone this because it's an excuse for the library not being that big, the public library. We have a public library, but it's not that big. And the short story collection Heatseeker by John Shirley was in there, and I religiously took out that book from the library. No one else seemed to be interested in it at the time, so it was always available, and I was always getting it. Yeah, then it was also out of print in Germany for a very long time until I then recently, or more recently, got my hands on a second-hand copy, and it is one of my most cherished possessions. And so I know who John Shirley is at the time I come across his Blue Sky account, and I ask him. I tell him that I religiously took out your book from the library, and he actually replied to me and was very, very friendly and talked to me on Blue Sky, which is really, really amazing. Thank you very, very much for that, John. And I finally also actually got up the courage and asked him, because he's a friend of William Gibson, and I was looking into doing a podcast about Neuromancer. I asked him, can you tell me something funny or a nice anecdote about William Gibson? And I was expecting something like, because William Gibson in later years also wrote a screenplay for Alien 3, which was then never used, but it included a wooden space station. And I was thinking about, okay, maybe William Gibson in his research for the Alien 3 screenplay went into the woods to some hermit and asked him about how to make a wooden space station airtight, what kind of pine tar to use, and something like that. That's what I was expecting, and John Shirley got back to me with, here's a story I know that you can tell. William Gibson was in Woodstock in 1969. He didn't...
Also on par for the course?
Yes, but but he didn't have that much fun because apparently he got a bad batch of acid and
Yeesh.
spent most of the festival in the hospital tent.
Oh dear gods. Okay. Glad he made it out of it, and we got some output. A book from Mr. Gibson.
Yes,
Not.
exactly.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
but
Well,
that was such a funny thing. I thought, and therefore I think because Shirley tells me this as the anecdote I can tell about William Gibson, so I think he might actually have a very similar sense of humor to me. I know that his
interesting.
I know that his musical tastes are very very good, and yeah. Anyway, so Gibson meets Shirley, and Shirley reads the short fiction that Gibson has written up to that point. They will also collaborate on short stories, but something very, very important is that John Shirley also knows another guy called Bruce Sterling. And Bruce Sterling is one of those people, from what I can gather from his lectures, from all the fanzines he edited, how he from the forewords he wrote for various books of his friends. He wrote some for Gibson, and I think he wrote some for Shirley. And Bruce Sterling strikes me as a person that is not offended if you call him an instigator, because he admits in the foreword to Burning Chrome, a short story collection by William Gibson, that one of his hobbies is to annoy people.
I imagine they exist. They're not just in somebody's imagination.
Yeah. And so he gets into contact with them, and they read his short fiction, and they think they got something here. They need to get this guy to write a novel. They find that he has similar tastes to them, that he is in the same kind of headspace, and that he is onto something with this basically this science fiction that reads like Naked Lunch by Burroughs, or On the Road by Kerouac, or something like that. And they convince him to write Neuromancer, the book we are talking about today, a book that coined the term cyberspace. And it is a book all about computers, computer hacking, and stuff like that. And it was written in 1984 on a mechanical typewriter. Ajit, you still there?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Your audio somehow dropped in volume. Is there? Let me.
No, I did change microphones because it was too hot.
Ah, yes. Okay. I think you need to. I need to up you. Can you say something?
Can I say something? Can I say anything?
Now you sound like a Dalek. I have to admit. Okay. Sorry for that, everyone. There was a bit of a technical snafu, hiccup, anything like that. Now we are at the point in time, 1984, when Neuromancer was released to the public. It is a remarkable book in at least one, even if you don't like it, in at least one regard, and that is, it is the only novel ever to win the Nebula, the Hugo, and the Philip K. Dick Award.
You told me this offhand. You told me this even when you recommended it to me.
Yeah. It's the only novel that ever won that, and I have to admit that's a bit unfair to it's a bit unfair because the Philip K. Dick Award is only awarded to novels who have their first publication in softcover and not hardcover. So that's a bit
I
of a
see. Okay.
yes.
Mm, mm. All right.
So yeah, Ajit, what did you think of Neuromancer generally? Did you like it?
Absolutely. So first of all, it has a dystopian view. It has a little bit of a, let's say, a gloomy sort of a view on life itself. That was new, but it was not unexpected, right? So, but the first thing is, it's the second instance for me where somebody in sci-fi has seen what is going to happen 40 years from that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, so many things in that rang true, right? So it was sort of almost foretelling the future, more like that rather than just a story. So, and of course, the tone of the novel itself is very dark, but I liked it. And
Yeah,
as I said, plenty of things stand out. Um,
yeah,
I think we can elaborate a bit more as we go on.
yeah. Okay, so I think we won't go into too much detail because the point of this podcast is not necessarily to give you a very detailed overview of the novel.
Absolutely. Mm.
You should actually go out and read it, and then maybe listen to this podcast again because I was going to talk about a lot of the things of the themes in this
Mm.
novel, and put it a bit into its historical context maybe because um, it is a book of its time and the age shows in some regards, I would say.
Mm. 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 Mm.
Well,
Okay, I'm curious how you mean. Let's
yeah,
go
yeah,
into
okay,
that
okay,
first. Yeah,
okay. I will give you a brief overview of what is happening. Okay, so um,
let's go. Yeah.
yeah, the novel opens with a sentence that is generally considered to be one of the more famous, memorable, and good first
Mm.
sentences in a science fiction novel, and it opens with the sky above the port was the color of television tuned to a dead channel, and that is
What a beginning. Now.
yeah, it's and that is kind of the thing. You don't have any dead channels anymore. We have flat screen TVs, and if we tune it into a channel where there is nothing, it just says no connectivity or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this is
Um.
a throwback to the period where TVs used to show
Yeah. Static
by channels, and sometimes the channel used to lose the connect you or your antenna used to lose connectivity to the provider, and suddenly you had an interesting view. So now I'm curious as to what that means. Maybe it means different things in different part of the world. So what did he mean?
I think it means that it is basically a generally grayish, speckled sky, and the the first association I have with that is um, static and pollution and very dreary and
I can
something like that.
interesting. The picture he paints. Sometimes we often hear a picture can paint 1,000 words worth of information. This is one of those where a line can probably spark 1,000 pictures worth of discussions.
Yes.
Because I used to call it while growing up rain. We used to call it, is it raining on TV? It doesn't mean that
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that it's raining on TV, but it's actually, is this interrupted transmission view on TV? While growing up, we used to call it, is it raining on TV? Like this gray thing that used to have like sometimes with black things sort of as if falling on the screen.
Mm.
So as I said, it sometimes can mean different things from different parts of the world. But coming to what you're saying, it's a fantastic view. It's like you're already starting to give the listener or the reader this view of dystopia. Wonderful.
Yes, exactly. And then there are other things which we will come to where the age shows a bit. But we meet our well. I don't want to call him the hero. He is more of a protagonist. Case, and he used to be a very, very successful and very, very good, one of the best console cowboys, as they are called in this world. They are hackers, basically. Um, we have cyberspace. People have an interface. They can basically project their mind, or they can interact with the internet in what Gibson calls consensus hallucination. So it's basically like every movie that where people put some electrodes on their forehead, or use a jack behind their ear to dive into cyberspace. This is where that starts, basically, or Gibson's Sprawl trilogy in a larger sense. This is where that starts. So he's one of these kinds of hackers. He's a console cowboy, but he made a mistake. And the mistake is that he stole from his clients, from the criminals that paid him to do internet crime. He stole from them. And and these people tend to be very, very vengeful, and they obtain a Russian mycotoxin, which I think, or which means that it's a toxin from fungi, and it fried his neural pathways. He can no longer enter the matrix. And and so he has been in Chiba City, and he's been trying to use all the money that he has left to find a cure from all the doctors in Chiba City, and no one can help him. So he resorts to very, very low level crime. He has a girlfriend called Linda Lee, and everyone in the city in Chiba, because he's in Japan, because it's the 1980s, and Japan is basically the land of technology and the future for 1980s Americans. No one can help him until everyone knows he has a death wish. People think he is bad company because he's doing all of the drugs and he's pissing everyone off. Because he basically has lost the will to live, because he can't do what he loves to do. He can't enter the matrix anymore. And in this situation, he is found by someone called Molly Millions, and Molly Millions comes to Case with a job offer, and part of his salary, or his what do you call it? Remuneration.
Okay. Yeah.
Or compensation for doing this job is that he can that he will have his neural pathways restored. There is a very expensive way to do it, she tells him. You have to do a job for me, or for my employer, because she is employed by someone that is called Armitage. So from there on, this plays out like a traditional heist story. First, they have Case restored. He meets Armitage, and they go to get something that they will need for the actual job. They need an icebreaker, they call it, which is basically a virus program. They need a Chinese virus program, and they do the first job, stealing that, and they are supported in that because Case has a mentor, McCoy Pauley, called the Dixie Flatline, because he got flatlined 3 times by electronic intrusion countermeasures, intruder counter measures electronics, ICE, um,
Mm.
which
That's
is
what
where that comes from.
icebreaker is
Yeah,
at the end.
exactly. And they call the
Yeah.
virus program an icebreaker. And
Yeah.
this is basically where all this cyberpunk lingo comes from. Um, and they have this recording of Case's former mentor, the Dixie Flatline, and that is another one of those parts where the book shows its age because they actually managed to get all of the recording of a full human personality into what is it? I think
Floppy disk.
512 kilobytes.
Yes. Yes. It's a floppy disk. So that's again something you're telling your own. What is the look? When I started learning of computer science or whatever, right? Yeah, I had a 2 MB flash drive, and that was the thing, right? Oh my God. So if you
Yes,
can imagine, 512 KB should be a lot of data in 1980s, early 1980s.
yes, exactly. We had at school in the computer laboratories, one of our teachers collected old prospects, old catalogs for computers and stuff like that, and they had 64 kilobytes of RAM, and they cost 15,000 marks at the time.
Yes. They were costly.
Yes, exactly, and that is one of the things where the book shows its age. Now we know
Mm.
you should probably need at least several terabytes to record a full human personality.
Yeah, at least in today's world, that's what you would think, right? No way would you be able to get away with a few kilobytes. Half, yeah, half an MB worth of whatever, right? So interesting.
Yes. But they succeed in this heist with the help of, well, let's call it, it's a juvenile gang, the Panther Moderns. They
Mhm.
hijack TV channels and do basically a TV channel, a digital TV channel kind of graffiti by splicing splicing in their messages, their art and stuff like that. Everyone is very very eccentric
Mm.
in this world. Molly is basically the muscle for the whole operation because she is what's called a street samurai. Um,
Yes,
and in I know in the English version
Razor
she's
Girl. Mm.
yes, a razor girl. Yes, exactly, because she has,
Razor Girl is what she's called. Yeah.
yeah, and a samurai. She's also called a samurai sometimes. Um,
Mm.
and I think in the German translation, because I'm German, and I read that first. I think she's also referred to as Molly Messerklaue, which is Molly Knifeclaw in German.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so the first heist is basically there to set up the limits of the technology because Molly has a kind of a module implanted in her that allows Case to monitor everything or to experience what she experiences
Exactly. To
during the
live, to look through her eyes, to hear through her ears. It's very, very interesting
yes,
again.
exactly, but he can't talk to her um
No, it's
in
like
that.
he's a partial observer. Sorry, what do you call it? A neutral observer, just
Yes,
witnessing the events through her view, view and
exactly.
perspective.
Yes, exactly. And it's for anyone who has seen the Catherine Bigelow film Strange Days. It's basically that. Everyone who has seen it will know exactly what's going on. The gruesome murder at the end of that film. That's basically what Molly is doing here. What Molly has here, and they are doing this first heist, but they are also becoming a bit suspicious of their employer, their um, their boss, Armitage, and so they start to investigate him, and they find out that Armitage is not really Armitage. His name is Willis Corto, and he is a former colonel in the United States Army. He was some time back. He was part of something that was called Operation Screaming Fist, which is described as an early form of cyber warfare against the Soviet Union, when they had two-man teams in ultralight gliders, one the pilot and the other one the hacker with a matrix deck and trying to hack Russian defenses or something like that. And this mission, this Operation Screaming Fist, goes horribly wrong. No one survives except for Willis Corto, who hijacks a Russian military helicopter and flies to Finland. He comes
Not
out
in a good way. He doesn't make it out in one piece, as they say, right? He
Yes,
suffers a lot of injury.
exactly. He's damaged in body and mind, basically to within an inch of his life.
Yeah, and that is important for the novel as well, right? Because we're going to see why.
Exactly. So he is then rebuilt, both in the psychological sense. They build basically a new personality for him, endless hours of psychological aftercare and remodeling of a whole personality, and stuff like that. And he's also he gets plastic surgery to repair his damaged body. He then gets to give a speech to Congress. No, he's a witness, or
He's just in a grand jury trial or something.
Yeah, exactly.
He's asked to come give his side of the story.
Exactly. And the U.S. government falsifies this testimony. That's it. That's the word, testimony. He is to testify before Congress, and they brainwash him, and he gives a testimony that is not true, and he cracks. And apparently, during this time, he has come into contact. During the time of his rebuilding, he's come into contact with something that is called Wintermute. And Wintermute is an AI, a very, very advanced AI that has still some limitations. Wintermute does not really have a personality, and it is also there are strict rules and regulations going on in this world about what AI can do. This Wintermute is also the property of someone called, or a clan of people called Tessier Ashpool. And they reside in what is basically a space station, but it's an O'Neill cylinder. It's like a very, very long spindle, because it is tapered at the ends and it spins along the long axis, thus creating a kind of pseudo-gravity on the inside.
If you have read the Rama novels,
yes, exactly,
you will know what we're talking of. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Hint.
Yes.
Okay.
And this thing is called Freeside, and apparently the Tessier Ashpool family owns one end of this rotating habitat in space, and that is called the Villa Straylight. And they will need to go to the Villa Straylight because it becomes very clear that their real employer is not Armitage. Armitage is a puppet that is controlled by Wintermute. They recruit another member for the team, a very psychopathic guy that is basically, well, he's an entertainer. He has implants that can basically hypnotize people, and he can also create holograms, and he uses these holograms and his ability to influence people in the audience to create very disturbing, let's call it, performances. And they need him to get into the Tessier Ashpool part of the free side, which is the name of the habitat.
Just a throwback, just another connection. If you have read the Isaac Asimov's novels Foundation series, he's the mule, but with implants.
Yes, basically he's something very 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 similar to the mule from the Foundation series. Yes. Um. So this is the setup, and the rest of the novel then concerns itself with the real heist. They fly up to the free side with some space Rastafarians who basically squat on the outside or very near to the free side in a independent space colony that is this, from the description, looks a bit like squatting in lower Earth orbit.
Yes.
From old space capsules, I think there is mention of some parts reminding Case of his school days, of old Soviet spacecraft. So basically Soyuz capsules. Parts of this space Rastafarian colony that is actually also called Zion.
Zion. Yeah.
Yes. There is a for all the people that are really into the Matrix. That's probably why the stronghold of humanity in that movie is called Zion.
Zion. Yeah.
There is a very very good part that follows that describes life in Freeside, because it's basically for the ultra rich. It's a playground. It's a Las Vegas for the ultra rich, where all the laws of the land don't really apply, because it is the jurisdiction is, I think it's in Switzerland for the Freeside, something like that.
It's registered somewhere in Switzerland, something like this.
Yeah,
Yes.
something like that. And there is a very good thing. I think the main road, or the main avenue in the Freeside, is called the Rue Jules Verne, and I really really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the end, it becomes clear that the reason why they are up there is because Wintermute wants his freedom, and he has a brother, and he wants to merge with this brother, and this brother, which is another artificial intelligence AI, that is the titular Neuromancer, and
Exactly.
in order to get to Neuromancer, they need to hack the Tessia Ashpool system, but they also have to get in physically into the Villa Straylight, seduce one of the Tessia Ashpools.
Whoever is awake. That's how it's put, right?
Yeah, exactly, because the Tessia Ashpools are a very, very weird kind of family. Not everyone of the family is awake at all times. A lot of them spend most of the time in cryogenic sleep.
They're also very old. Many of them are very old, many generations
Yes,
old.
exactly.
They're just preserving their body through cryogenic sleep and sort of, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they are also they are inbred to a very large extent, and they remind me a bit of the human ant colony in Frank Herbert's Hellstrom's Hive, where they are something of a, they are very very inhuman, because they live in like a, or their ultimate goal is basically to create a kind of a hive that is made up of all the members of the family, some of which are, as we said, in cryogenic sleep, and it's all very very weird. They are very inhuman. So and the guy with the he's called Rivera, the guy with
Yes.
the hypnotic
implants for entertainment.
Yeah, again, exactly. He is part of the team to seduce one of the Tessia Ashpools, and he seems to succeed, but then I don't want to spoil anything. There is
Yes,
betrayals,
yes.
there is counter betrayals, there is a breakdown of
We should not give the ending. I think that makes a lot of sense.
yeah, there's a lot of breakdown, there is twists and turns, and it all basically ends in what I would describe as a singularity event. That that in the end doesn't have all that many consequences. I would say, because the
Up to a
singularity.
point. Up to a point. There are some consequences. But again, we will reveal a part of the story, but you can think of it as a singularity event. Okay? Okay, I see where I'm coming from.
Yeah, exactly. It's this ultimate breakthrough in either science or technology or consciousness that then accelerates further progress so rapidly that basically time becomes um, relatively meaningless, because it's all the now from then on. That is basically what the singularity, or one interpretation of what could be a singularity event, um, what that means. And there is a singularity event at the end of the book, but the world just doesn't end. It just goes on, I think. Um, so yeah, I think it is an excellent book. What parts did you like the most, Ajit?
So, first of all, look, I told you the dystopian perspective, the view that is offered to the user. Um, there is a clear definition of who are the haves and who are the have-nots, and who have these implants that with which they can access cyberspace. This is actually a physical thing, and how Case sort of blew his case by cheating his employer and then lost it, and then somehow he gets this, but then it's conditional. I'm not going to say why it is conditional. I'll let the people figure it out. People who read the novel, listen to the. So I should also say by I should also start by saying, look at the BBC's adaptation of Neuromancer. Excellent. It's just 2 hours. It's available for free on YouTube. And Leah gave me the link because I didn't really have the time for the whole novel. I just heard the BBC's adaptation, and they have done a wonderful job, as always, that BBC can
Yes.
do sometimes with good books. And it's just 2 hours, and it's a very succinct summarization of this novel, and it ends, let's say, at 90% of the novel. It doesn't go the whole way, and you understand why, for a reason, if you are understanding and seeing where this novel ends and where it's heading. But nonetheless, the portrayal of Riviera character, the portrayal of Case and Molly, all of these are fantastic. They are played by very, very capable actors. Um, and when you look at all that, so what I liked is somebody, this is for me the second time, at least in my own understanding, where somebody is almost like a visionary. He's seen through time. He's a science fiction writer who's actually come up with something that becomes reality 30, 40 years down the line. There are no physical implants that we need to access the cyberspace, but we are on the cyberspace, air quotes, when we are talking to each other. And we do most of our work on the internet, where most of our work is sort of air quotes in the cloud, and this and that. All of this was foreseen. And there is this concept of there are games where you can become a character yourself. Um, if you remember how the novel ends, where the main character sort of sees something and he's
Yes.
shocked by it, but then it's not surprising at all if you think how it's done. So you have these games where, what's it called, Second Life, something, where you make a copy of
Yeah, there
yourself
was
and you're.
yeah, there was something very weird called Second Life, that basically, that was so weird, because it there was a real estate bubble in virtual space. And,
There you
and,
go.
and, and then and then just like in the real world, the real estate bubble in cyberspace also imploded, and people lost.
Something like that. People who spent a lot of money there. But anyway, look, coming back, it's somebody who's sort of already going through all of those. Cyberspace being present, people working on cyberspace. For him to have sort of seen through all of this in the 1980s, early part of 1980s, and then all of it coming through in the 2000s, 40, 30, 40 years later, it's like very much like, for me, Arthur C. Clarke in his story writes about geosynchronous satellites and then them actually coming into being 20, 30 years later in the 90s. So all of these is sort of almost like it's visionary, that sort of view perspective.
Mm.
That's where all of us are heading. What he explains, what Earth to be, and so on. Um, that's a very bleak picture indeed. I like the tone, the way the novel is set, and the way it sets the user on a path of self-discovery as well. Right?
Yes.
So he doesn't give you everything around what's going on in the world. He just gives you what is needed, and he sort of sets you on a path of discovery with the characters, the main characters, and you
Yeah.
get to see the world through their eyes.
Yes, exactly. And I think William Gibson is one of the first American science fiction authors to really embrace this gritty kind of hard science fiction,
Hmm.
where there are very very strict technical rules, and they are explained to you in a very very good way, because the explanation is integrated into the story. The parameters for the second the main heist are set up by uh, this attempt to, or by this theft of the Chinese virus program. So that's really really good.
Icebreaker, yeah.
Yeah, and but he uses what is generally be considered um, a new wave technique, um,
Mm.
in what he in how he writes, in his prose style, and I think a very very big influence is basically also early or earlier John Carpenter stuff, like think of Escape from New York, with Snake Plissken, Kurt Russell in one of his finest roles, because there are so many throwaway lines in these early Carpenter movies that hint at a wider world without ever specifying anything. And Neuromancer is basically also like that, because, for example, it is said in the novel that Case is from Bama, which is all capitalized. So he's not from Alabama. He is from the Boston Atlanta Metropolitan Annex. Um,
Mm.
there is never any reference to the United States in the novel, and William Gibson said years later in an interview that the United States cannot be proven to exist in the text of Neuromancer. His one regret
Yeah,
is that
fair
he
enough.
didn't that he didn't also kill off the Soviet Union, because the Soviet Union.
Well, Soviet Union is it's the antagonist in some places, isn't it? For example, for United States to air quotes um, plan a mission against them. So that's the only part where the character of Armitage and what his background is
Yes,
gives away a little bit of an entity that controls or governs that northern hemisphere, a northern part of the American continent, American. That's what you hear. That's all there is to it. That only there you sort of. Otherwise, this guy lives in Japan, Chiba City, and so it's all sort of set in a different place. And some of it is set in space. Some of the story, as we
yes,
said.
exactly. But there is also the possibility that the United States dissolved between the time that Willis Corto was on his mission Screaming Fist, during Operation Screaming Fist, and the never really specified um, present of the novel. I think Gibson later said that he always imagined it being set in the 2030s, um, but it's never specified in the text.
Again, quite visionary. I mean, we've achieved what he said, but he already thought of something like this being a reality in 2030.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Something also very very interesting to me is this concept of the space squatters, the Rastafarians that, and I forgot to mention that their ship. They are constantly playing dub reggae over the speakers,
Yes.
and their ship is called the Marcus Garvey. So yeah,
Absolutely.
and I think it's really really interesting, because Gibson once said in an interview that um, all the slang that people said he invented, the way Molly and Case speak, and the Finn, which is another minor character, um,
Hmm.
people always credit with William Gibson inventing this kind of slang, that way to speak, and he said in an interview, no, I did not invent that. This is basically all late 1960s, early 1970s Toronto dope dealer or biker talk.
I see.
Yes.
There was already a subculture that he reused, let's say.
Yes, exactly. He used parts of what he knew, and maybe recombined it all a bit, to make it to disguise maybe the origins and the source. But it's apparently it's all there. I couldn't tell you. I did not live in Toronto in the 1960s.
Right.
Yeah, bikers and dope dealers are, I don't know, there are not many of those in my social circle.
Maybe
I have to admit.
Neither in mine. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Another thing I find interesting is back to the space Rastafarians, because they squat. They build their own ramshackle structures. This time in a very hostile environment. Space is not very conducive to human life, but they manage to do it anyways. And this will also be a theme in the next trilogy that he writes, which is generally referred to.
Trilogy.
Yes. It's generally referred to as the Bridge trilogy, whereas Neuromancer. Yes. And I will tell you why that is. Whereas Neuromancer is referred to as the Sprawl trilogy, named after basically the urban sprawl that engulfs all of the United States, or former United States East Coast, from, as we said, from Boston to Atlanta. So it's an urban sprawl, and is therefore generally referred to as the Sprawl trilogy. Some of the early short fiction of Gibson also takes place in this universe. There is a very, very famous short story called Johnny Mnemonic. That was also.
Yes, I was about to say that.
Yeah,
wonderful,
that is
wonderful reference.
Yes, and that is.
It's sort of the idea that sort of gives birth to the novel that becomes Neuromancer, right? And I think Molly Millions, she's also one of the characters who has a crossover from Johnny Mnemonic to Neuromancer to then Mona Lisa Overdrive.
Exactly.
And in Mona Lisa Overdrive, she's called Sally Shears. Very,
Yeah, exactly.
Lucy Liu, Uma Thurman sort of a character in Kill Bill.
Yeah.
That's what I always think of Molly Millions, right? She's like that Uma Thurman's character in Kill Bill.
Yeah, and I mean, she is. Yeah, she
ninja.
is. Yes, she is in Johnny Mnemonic, and she is in in Neuromancer, and she is in Mona Lisa Overdrive. So therefore, we know that all this takes place in the same universe. And she is also in the film version that was made in the 1990s with Keanu Reeves, and we will talk about that a bit later, because it is really, really interesting as a film, because it is basically an omnibus version of William Gibson's themes up to that point. Because in a second trilogy, which is called the Bridge trilogy, and the titular bridge in that is the Golden Gate Bridge. The Golden Gate Bridge in that future has been given up by the government. It is famous. It links Auckland and Oakland and San Francisco. It bridges the San Francisco Bay, and that has been given up, and it has been taken over by squatters who build huts on the bridge, and it's become a very very self-sustaining community. And one of the characters in that lives atop one of the tall pillars of the bridge. Exactly.
Pillars. Sorry, not spires.
Yeah, of the pillars.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He builds has a hut up on that one, and I think the
He has a hut on top of that one. Fair enough.
yes, he's on top of that, very very high up. It is mentioned, and I think that because that plays such a big role in Gibson's world building, these squatter communities and stuff like that. And I think that has to do with his fascination with what was formerly known as Kowloon Walled City in Hong Kong. Not technically
Okay, okay.
in Hong. Do you know that?
I've only heard the name. I've heard it in reference to something else, but I think you're going to go and tell me. So I
Yeah.
think because
Okay.
I've just heard it as Kowloon World City. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Kowloon Walled City was a very, 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 very weird place because back in the day when the British annexed Hong Kong as a crown colony, um,
Hmm.
on the grounds of what was to become the crown colony of Hong Kong, there was also a Chinese military garrison, and the British did not want any of that.
Yes.
It it nominally stayed Chinese territory, but
Yes.
the Chinese had no interest in administering it. The British had no interest in enforcing their laws on that plot of land, and so there, there sprang up a community. It was all basically it's a lawless, it's a very very dense tower block, city block, basically. With
Right.
very, very narrow corridors and not really streets, and it is basically a lawless place. The obviously,
Sort of self-contained. Let's say it
yes,
had its
exactly,
own rules. If not everybody went to live there, only people of a certain background were welcome to live there, and they had their own rules. You have to go
yes,
by the
exactly,
rules of that
exactly,
place.
and they have basically they have doctors, they have dentists, they have restaurants, and it's all run by the mob, basically by the triads who obviously,
Triad.
obviously move in because there is no law enforcement. Hong Kong police does
No,
not
there
go
is law
there.
enforcement, just not by recognized government entity.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. Thieves law and stuff like that. And it is a one of the most densely populated spots on the planet, up until I don't know when exactly it was demolished, but it's not there anymore. But if you look on YouTube, you can find Kowloon Walled City. It's written, it's spelled Kowloon, Kowloon Walled City. And I think Gibson has a fascination with that, or had a fascination with that place, or still has a fascination with that place. Um, I think the demolishing of the place does not take away his fascination with it, because he also did a feature for a magazine about Kowloon Walled City. So he actually went there, and I think it's a 7 or 8 page article,
Mhm.
and yeah, you can also find that on the internet. It's a fascinating read. There are pictures in it, and those pictures are grim. But I think
Now, if
that,
you just look at the Wikipedia article, you already see everything you need to know and read enough already there. It's pretty detailed.
yeah. So I think that is also part of how you should imagine, probably, the world of Neuromancer looking in the grimier parts, not in the Rue Jules Verne. Obviously, that's high tech, glitzy Las Vegas stuff
Hmm.
like that. But
Yes.
there are very very seedy characters in that novel, and they live in very very seedy places. There is a bar, in which case, used to go and have a beer with all the other console cowboys, and that one is called Gentleman Loser, for example. It plays a bigger part in Johnny Mnemonic than it does in Neuromancer, granted, but because both take place in the same universe, we can therefore say that there is a bar called Gentleman Loser in in Neuromancer. And
Absolutely. And look, it's also the first part where you meet him for the first time, and what you see is very interesting, and then you get to experience that world firsthand. How he struggles to make an existence, that he's no longer a hacker, he's no longer a programmer, right? That
Yes.
part is very eye-opening as well.
Yeah, exactly. Now that you mention it, there is a part he goes out and he is afraid that there is a hit out on him.
Yeah,
Um,
correct.
and he goes to let's call it an entrepreneur, and he tries to rent
Yeah,
a weapon,
correct.
and he doesn't have enough money to rent a gun, and therefore buys a telescopic baton, what we call in
Yes.
Germany a Totschläger, which
Yeah.
is Totschläger is it's manslaughterer.
Okay.
Um,
In this
yeah,
case, it's just something that, like, boom, you press a button and it becomes like a stick
yes,
that you can.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, and the German name for that is Totschläger. They are absolutely illegal in Germany, stuff like that,
I
and
can imagine.
yeah,
Yes.
and the way this business is described, that is definitely, I can
Mm.
guarantee you something like that, some business like that or businesses like that did exist in Kowloon Walled City back in the day.
Yes. Well, all of this is very, very interesting. And also, I mean, some part of the ending is also has a little bit of imaginative perspective. So that part is also nice. The way they, let's say, achieve the goal or they don't, what happens in that perspective when they go to that, that utopian,
Yeah,
utopian sort of place.
yeah,
All of these are extremely fascinating. How what happens there, the events that we really can't talk about it, but we really, really encourage anybody who's listening to this
exactly.
podcast to try and get hold of, first of all, maybe the original novel, if you can read it, if you have the time for it, listen to it like what I did, maybe, or you get to the BBC version. It's still, at least, let's say, faithful enough that it captures that specific tone of the novel very faithfully.
Yes, it does. It does. And yeah, so I think we should, maybe we are now at over an hour. I think we can both agree.
Yeah.
Neuromancer is a really really great story, and you should actually read it. And if you get if you get a chance to watch the Johnny Mnemonic film version, you
Yes.
should also watch that, because it's madness on stilts, that film, because
Right.
for several reasons. Let's just look at the cast of that movie. The cast is Keanu Reeves. He plays the title character, but there
Hmm.
are other very well-known actors in it. One of the more seedy characters in the book is played by German cult hero Udo Kier.
Hmm.
You
Would okay. Yes.
yes, you know him. He is
Yes.
the leader of the space Nazis in Iron Sky. People probably know him from that.
It's very
Krautfleisch.
common. Is if you want a air quotes Germanic looking villain, you went to either Rutger Hauer or Udo Kier, right? So
Yeah,
in
exactly.
the Hollywood
Something like
tropes.
that.
Yes.
And Armin Müller-Stahl. Yeah, he's one
Oh,
of
okay.
those guys. He's one of those guys. Um, there is um, a doctor in the movie, and he is played by Henry Rollins. Henry Rollins was the lead singer of very, very influential American punk band Black Flag. He's
Hmm.
also a very well known spoken word artist nowadays. Um, there is an assassin that is out to get Johnny Mnemonic in that film. He's a kind of a weird cybernetic Franciscan monk. Um, and it,
Cybernetic San Franciscan monk.
yes,
Those words don't belong together, I think. But
exactly,
okay.
exactly. But he's wearing the habit, the
Eh,
brown robes of very very um, rough fabric. He has a full beard, and under that beard is Dolph Lundgren.
There you go. They should have just taken Sean Connery from the Name of the Rose or something, right? That would have been enough.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, all
exactly.
right.
He looks a bit like that, but it's Dolph
That's the
Lundgren.
joke. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's Dolph Lundgren. There is a Japanese businessman in the film that is then murdered by a cyber ninja, and that Japanese businessman is actually played by Takeshi Kitano.
Takeshi Kitano. Oh.
Yeah, he is the guy. Most Western audiences probably know him from Brother. He's one of the most important Japanese directors and actors working in Japanese cinema today. He's also the guy, the guy from Takeshi's Castle, the daimyo, the count.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, because he started his career as a stand-up comedian, and then somehow got into acting. And
being a TV host and this that. All right.
Yeah, exactly. But let's be honest, Takeshi's Castle is very, very old. It was made in the 80s or something like that. So it's before his film career.
Still wonderful television, right?
Yeah.
Still top class television.
Yeah, but it's before his film career takes off. And then there is Molly Millions is played by Dina Myers, who is probably best known from Starship Troopers, where she plays Dizzy, the blonde girl with the curly hair that has a thing for the main character, but he just is too stupid to realize it. She's Molly Millions, or the equivalent character, and then there is a guy who is also living. He's the leader of a community that is also living on a bridge, and that's the interesting thing about Johnny Mnemonic, because it meshes everything, all the concepts, or a lot of the concepts from Johnny Mnemonic, and it takes some of the parts from the Bridge trilogy and puts it all together into this framework that is the short story Johnny Mnemonic. Because in the end they come to a bridge, and one of the leaders of that community is played by I think it's Ice Cube, or is it Ice-T? One of
Ice-T.
Yes, it's Ice-T. Yes, no.
Ice-T is given some credit on the film.
Yeah, exactly. He is.
So it should be him. Yeah.
Yeah. He is in that as well. And I mean, where else could you watch a movie where all these people are in it? And I think Gibson wrote the screenplay for that one.
Yes, he's associated with the movie, and he's indeed credited as the screenplay writer for it. So
yes.
That's fantastic to use the real author who's 10 years removed from the whole, even less probably, if you also count the bridge, right? So that's wonderful work there.
Yeah, I think it's his only produced screenplay. Because as I mentioned before, he actually wrote several versions of the screenplay for Alien 3, which you can also find on the internet, which I would encourage you to do, because they are really, really excellent. They are absolutely out there, and they are nothing like the version of Alien 3 that David Fincher in the end did make, which is also good, but it would have been insane to see William Gibson's screenplay for Alien 3 produced. And one of the funny things about this movie is also that it was made in the 1990s, middle of the 1990s, and it was made
95 release. Yes,
and it was made by Sony Pictures, and in the promotional campaign for that movie, they got William Gibson to do an AMA, basically on a back in the day on a bulletin board, And it was the
Hmm.
first time that William Gibson, the guy who invented cyberspace, the word cyberspace, who shaped so much of our perception of what cyberspace might look like, how to interact in cyberspace, um, interacted for the first time in his life with a bulletin board in 1995 or something, and he was horrified.
Right.
He said
All right.
that he was horrified, and so if you go and subscribe to this channel and get us to 100 subscribers, I guess I have to get Ajit back on the podcast. We will then watch Johnny Mnemonic and
Yeah.
do basically a live
Watch along.
commentary on it or something
Yes.
like that. If that is okay with
Yeah.
you, Ajit, I'm just Shanghaiing
Perfect.
you
No, I
here
can
a
commit
bit.
now. No, you're not doing anything. There is no ambush. I'm already ready to commit. If we have 100 subscribers on the, let's say, the YouTube channel,
Yeah.
let's rank, and let's say then we are going to do a watch along of John Mnemonic. Let's do that.
Yes. Exactly. So, in conclusion, dear
Wonderful.
listeners, both Ajit and me would absolutely recommend that you read Neuromancer, or that you listen to and or that you listen to the excellent BBC audio drama that was made of this book. And you should also look into the rest of what William Gibson has written, and you should also look up John Shirley, because I have a feeling that we will have to talk about him, hopefully to him,
Hint, hint.
on this
Mhm.
podcast in the, well, medium future. Let's call it that. In the not in the long term, in
All
the
right.
uh,
Short future. Fair enough.
yeah,
Wonderful.
a bit,
Wonderful.
a bit longer short term future. Hopefully, I will ask him if he would be willing to come on to the show and talk a bit about a select few of his short stories from that book of his that I mentioned in the beginning. So,
All right. However, I should also say thank you. It's been a very, very wonderful chat. I didn't even notice the time that's passed.
yes,
And
thank you.
you're talking about a subject we both like. I mean, I
Yes,
must say we're nerds. And this is a wonderful thing. All the recollections, all the associations from everything else you may have read in a different point in time. Lovely, lovely to be invited. I'll always be up for this chat, even let's say periodically. This is wonderful.
yes. Thank you very much. So, thank you, first of all, Ajit, for coming on. And thank you, the listener, of course, for listening. And if you really like what you have heard here today, then I should, or I may ask you, please leave a like below this video on YouTube. It really, really helps out the channel. And if you don't want to miss any updates on this channel in the future, you can always subscribe and activate the notifications. You will be notified of any new episodes that drop, and never miss anything on this wonderful channel ever again. Isn't that great? So, thank you,
Absolutely.
everyone, and we will see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.